Welcome to the meeting called Large Companies, Which Opportunities for Youth? Today we have the honor and the possibility to have a dialogue about some experiences of the main companies in our country. This is why I would like to thank our guests, Mr. Massimo Angelini, Director PR Internal and External Communication of Wind 3 SPA. Mr. Francesco Delzio, Head of External Relations, Institutional Affairs and Marketing for Atlantia and Autostrade per l'Italia. He is also a writer. Mr. Vitaliy Novikov, CEO of Coca-Cola HBC Italy. And last but not least, Professor Giulio Sapelli, Professor of Economic History at the University of Milan. We are really thankful to welcome them here. Before giving them the floor, I would like to explain what we're going to talk about. We are living a passage of time, and the relationship between youth and the labor market is more and more difficult. A few data. In 1980, USA and Europe made up for 52% of the worldwide GDP. In 2015, it dropped incredibly. In 2020, it's going to drop even more. In China, the GDP instead went up and it reached 24% in 2015. Our youth is ready to work hard to build a better world. Mr. Alessandro Rosina was our guest here at the meeting yesterday. He wrote, "Back in time, we were ready to bet on what we could get, what we could achieve by leaving our home, by taking a risk. Our new generations were ready to build a new world, and they were not afraid to take risks. The main worry was not what they were going to leave behind, but what they could build." Starting from this, now we have the great chance to ask our guests, what are companies looking for in young people? How do they see our youth? And how are these global challenges faced by companies and young people working? I will now give the floor to Mr. Massimo Angelini. Thank you and good morning. Thank you very much for the invitation. The title of our meeting is extremely interesting. We have the chance to talk about our large company and what large companies are doing, how they're facing this new era and their relationships with young people. I don't want to bore you with figures and data. I just want to say two things about the field we work in. Just a couple of data very quickly. In 2010, 7 years ago, less than 50% of workers in the communication field, maybe today we should talk about digital communication companies, were more than 40 years old. Nowadays this figure is 60%. People under 30 in 2010 made up 15% in this field. Today, instead, it makes up for 6%. It is incredibly interesting to see this development, this path towards workers that are older and older. There's a lack of an age turnover. Our company was born from the fusion between two companies, Wind and Tre. And we have created the greatest Italian mobile company. Together with this aging process, there is another important situation that we have to talk about. A transformation process every company is going through. A process called digital revolution. It is not something of the future. It is incredibly current. It's happening now. It concerns several businesses, the way our companies work, and it is influencing the skills required to work in our companies and to face these new challenges. Just think about the fact that very common jobs in our country, for example, e-commerce manager who takes care of app development, or for example the social media manager that starts a dialogue with the whole internet community. These professions didn't exist before. Other professions are changing. A few years ago, digital marketing issues were not very important. Nowadays, they are fundamental for all of our companies. The world surrounding us is changing at an incredibly fast rate. Now, what are companies about nowadays? Companies need to put human capital at the heart of their work and invest in people. It's something that seems obvious, but is still very important. We should invest in people, organize training courses. Nowadays, this is seen as an obligation. Otherwise, there will not be any benefits for the company. Something else that is changing, is becoming a must, is the fact that innovation doesn't take place inside the companies. This process is all about the fact that companies, startups are part of a chain that, by working together, can lead to the so-called open innovation, which enables us to create new services, new products. Just think about the app world. The majority of the apps we used were created by startups. They are an incredibly new way of imagining products and services. And it's a way of working that is totally different from the one there was before. At the same time, issues like problem solving, team building are pivotal nowadays. Every company is reorganizing its management. We're organizing information technology, digital marketing. The necessity of every company has changed. And as companies, we know that innovation is not only about the digital department and technological department, but has to be taken care of all over in all of the company. I would like to talk about 3 interesting projects. The first one called Wind 3 Factory. It's a factory where people under 30 work. There is an internal manager that helps them. They have a specific budget. And they study new projects, new products that are very specific, that have a very specific aim. For example, the relationship with the client, the several selling points. And there's a specific budget because everything they work on have a very specific aim, and then all the solutions they find are used in the market. Another project is called Wind Business Factor. It is a platform that combines new startups and the more conventional world, so that 2 worlds that would hardly collaborate through this platform can make people with new ideas meet, make them collaborate. What we're launching right now instead is another project, a Wind 3 Innovation School. Because we know that if we do not start from institutions, then everything that's happening and the transformation of our company will not be successful. We are working very hard thanks to subsidies for digital training. We are investing in the educational field. We're doing this through Wind 3 Innovation School. It is a training process based on new digital skills, on new skills of entrepreneurship, which combines Italian schools from Milan to Palermo in order to build a format and to collaborate with the Ministry of Education. We're trying to spread this model all over Italy. We hope that we'll be able to reward the most deserving schools. This is only the start of a long path, of a long journey. We're trying to make everyone understand that we have to invest a great amount of money, not only in schools, but in the content of education. Our motto is educate and learn. We care about young people. 65%, 2/3 of children starting primary schools today will have jobs that do not exist now. This is why we have to enrich and renew the Italian educational system. Thank you.
Eccoci allora.
Thank you, Mr. Angelini, and thank you all. Thank you for inviting me here. I am not going to talk about figures, but rather I will talk about companies as a professor in order to interpret the current situation. First of all, I'd like to tell young people that when deciding what to do right after university, Well, I believe that the right place to start working is a large company. And why is that? Well, in Italy there are very few large companies, Italian large companies, who have a global vision and are able to compete internationally. And they are the latest drivers in Italy. We've given up on training programs organized by political parties and so on. And so, large companies today are the right place in order to train young people to be the leading class of the future. Because, first of all, they allow young people to experiment through the exchange of views and experiences with foreign people. And so they send young people to the Middle East or to other countries. And by doing so, not only do they invest in people and in human capital, but they also invest in themselves. And so this is why I recommend the young people among the audience to look for large companies. Moreover, I believe it is important to work in a large company because in large companies there are two main values that are cherished, that are usually ignored in Italy, which is competitiveness and coexistence and cooperation. Meaning understanding when and how and with whom it is important to cooperate, and when and how it is important to compete. And these are the founding values of the international labor market. And these values are often ignored in Italy. So I'm telling you, try and apply for jobs in large companies because it is really worth it, and it will be a one-off experience from a political, social, and personal point of view. Second point, well, when applying for a large company and when going to an interview, well, do not think that you can apply for any position, any profile. It is not like that. Because it is important to present yourself to a large company with a set of skills and abilities. But then what you learn when working for this company is much more important than your own baggage of skills. And why is that? Because it is really important to have skills or that you have already acquired, which will enable you to work in the large company, but it is much more important to learn skills once you're already working there. And so we invest in an ongoing training and so working for a large company means growing from a professional point of view on a regular basis. Another thing I would like to tell you is that We always talk about legislative tools in order to create employment and increase the employment rate, the Jobs Act by the Renzi government, and other measures that have been implemented. And this is important because we need tools in order to support companies, in order for them to invest in the labor market, invest in young people. In Italy right now, the cost of capital is really low, and so it is very important to persuade companies to invest in people through legislative tools in order for companies to hire people, train people, and improve their human capital thanks to skilled young people. So all of these tools are really important, of course, but the most important thing is the possibility to create facilities in Italy and companies that have the possibility to invest in young people. Finally, I would like to say that we need to take into account the fact that thinking that we need to differentiate between old people and young people is a bad attitude, because in large companies there is no direct competition between young people who have just entered the large company and old people that have been working for a very long time in the company. There must be an exchange of experiences and skills, and all the old and the new generation must coexist and cooperate. And so we should not conceive the labor market as a competition between old people and young people, because this is not fruitful. It will not lead us anywhere. So it is important to understand that the relationship and the exchange between generations is very important in order to create a fruitful cooperation and in order to grow again. In order for the company to improve their competitiveness on the market. And so through my speech, I hope I have helped you somehow to shape your own future and make your own decisions for your future. Thank you.
Vitaliy.
Thank you very much, Mr. Novikov, for being here today. We thank you for even learning Italian in less than 2 years. So thank you for being here and talking with us. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the invitation. I apologize in advance for my Italian. I'm sorry for slaughtering your beautiful language. I hope I'll be clear. A few weeks ago, we have learned that the unemployment rate has gone down to 11%. And this is very positive. But still, the unemployment rate among young people is very high, about 35%. And Italy ranks third in Europe for unemployment among young people. So this is quite a worrying figure. With Coca-Cola Company, we always try to find a solution and to face new challenges. And so instead of asking ourselves, why don't young people find a job, we wondered, what can we offer to young people? A research by Louis carried out last year, supported by our company, carried out on millennials, showed very interesting and surprising results. This research showed that what young people are looking for is not even a high income. They are looking for good quality of products. They are interested in what the company supports, what are the values, what the values of the company are. This is very important for them. Income only ranks third. We are trying to do our part as Coca-Cola company. We have been organizing training programs for several years to make our world better. And we have very often discussed this issue. We have decided we have to do more. Last year we organized the so-called Youth Empowered project in order to encourage young people and help them find a job. In this way, we can improve the so-called life skills of young people. They can learn how to do practical things. At the same time, they become more aware of themselves, of their skills, their abilities. This is the key to find the job they're looking for. We also help them build the so-called business skills linked to the labor market. We are an incredibly large company. More than 2,000 people in Italy work for us. We have several plants. We work all over Italy. And very different people work for us. One thing that we can do concretely is making our workers, our more experienced workers, mentors for younger people. Our workers, our women, our men work with young people, teaching them these skills. And we also organize online digital courses that can be attended by our young workers only through their smartphones. So we're working both online and in the real world, thus building our company and encouraging this project. Every day we organize 2 workshops. There are a lot of participants. And this is how we do our part. I'm convinced of the fact that young people can carry out difficult jobs. I became CEO about 10 years ago and I'm 37, so I started very young. This is why I am aware of the fact that being young is not a problem. Through my experience, I learned that there's a gap between what schools teach our young people and what is required on the labor market. Our world is changing rapidly. Companies are changing rapidly because the market has new requirements, new necessities. Therefore, schools should be more prepared to face these changes, should organize and find new programs in order to respond to these new necessities. This is how we could face these changes and challenges. Thank you.
Ecco, il finale di intervento.
The last part of your speech allows me to introduce Mr. Sapelli. He lived most of his professional life at the University of Milan and then worked on corporate training, and so he can teach us a lot on the topic, on the issue of this gap between universities and the labor market. So you have the floor. Thank you for inviting me here. And as Mr. Magni said in introducing me, well, that's true. I am 70 years old, and I started working for Olivetti when I was 19 years old, so a long time ago. I made my own mistakes and then I came back to university, but I never really quit the labor market and corporations. I had the opportunity to work for large companies such as ENIT, Ferrovie dello Stato, the Italian railway, small companies such as Schneider, the Unicredit Bank, and so on. The most important experience for me was the training experience I had in the companies. In the 80s, for example, with Olivetti, we followed a course in order to have a career and be promoted and become managers. So I had a lot of training experiences in companies, and I believe it is really important to be able to do that. We worked with Massimo Ibarra as well in the communication sector. We organized a course lasting 15 days. So courses that last about a week, 15 days. And these courses were really important because they were the link between companies and young people. Because companies are facing a very serious crisis. Large companies are becoming obsolete. In an economic system, we need to have everything, every kind of companies, small, medium, and large companies. So it is important to have small businesses, large businesses. It is true that the large businesses are facing a very great time of change. They're being transformed. And it is important to restore the relationship between young people and old generation in order to pass on the know-how onto the next generation so that there can be a technological spillover between generations. And large companies must be able to manage all this. There are two possible ways to do this: by creating divisions, divides, in order to innovate. Well, that's not going to work because innovation is an anarchical process. You cannot do innovation in a vertical way with the hierarchy. Innovation is strictly related to the human capital. But large companies are not investing in young people, in human capital anymore. Because if you pay young people, if large companies pay young people very little, well, young people are not willing to work for them. So this is how the relationship between young people and large companies is today. It is slowly destroying, disappearing. We have destroyed the interrelation system between young people and large companies. Now we think that we can replace the system by tips, so-called tips, benefits. But that's not going to work either. Young people will believe in their work in the large company they work for only if they feel that they can be a value to them. Nowadays, employees only deal with the management part of the work. They do not innovate. Think about IBM, for example. In the past, they really believed in their employees. The great strength and the reason of success of American companies lies in the fact that they can invest and believe in their employees. And so employees were willing to stay and work really hard for their company because they were going through an ongoing training, creating know-how, and this system does not exist anymore. For example, we've organized courses on public speaking, leadership. Well, this is pointless because you cannot teach leadership. And as for public speaking, yeah, well, you must be able to do that already. You cannot be taught to do that. Because you cannot teach leadership or anything like that. So large companies are facing times of crisis because top managers are too well paid, while regular employees are underpaid. And then there is the issue of the lack of communication and exchange between old generations and new generations. In the past, large companies represented the possibility to succeed in life for people, to achieve their goals, their dreams. And we could give a lot of examples in this regard. Newspapers, famous companies. And so culture was strictly connected with the company. That's how it used to be in the past. When I organized trainings in the past, we had the possibility to collaborate with very important people very important trainers, and we wouldn't teach pointless things such as leadership, which cannot be taught, and so on. And so we need to invest in young people in a different way nowadays. Large companies need the revolutionary drive of young people. They need to encourage young people to take a risk, take a chance, innovate, believe in themselves. So first of all, large companies can be attractive and attract young people only if they change the way they pay them. Because employees must be willing to stay in that company for at least 20, 30 years. And so you have to pay them well. Because if young people keep changing companies and jobs because they're not well paid, well, they will not learn anything. And we will have no human capital to work with. And so this issue represents the real crisis of this country, because unless we restore a relationship, a connection between old and new generation, we will have no future. And young people will never learn anything. And moreover, it is important to highlight that the problem of large company is not corruption. It is the lack of communication and exchange between generations. Italy has always been the country of rights, never the country of duties. And this system has to be reversed. You also have duties when working for a large company. This is what we need to teach the young generation. There was a moment when some CEOs said, well, the labor market is growing, so we need to stop people from and prevent people from studying in university. So that they can enter the labor market earlier on. Well, that's wrong. Because young people get financing according to the number of graduates they hire. So we are facing a very important challenge: investing in people, investing in training, investing in university, reforming, transforming large companies in order for them to attract young people and in order for young people to be willing to stay and develop their skills in that company. We don't need to lose human capital. We need to attract human capital. Think about Amazon and other large companies. If you analyze their situation, you will see that they have a very low turnover rate. Employees are willing to stay and work for them for a very long time. Think about Silicon Valley companies. They invest in communities. They want to create a community of employees. So, teaching them skills and then benefiting from those skills. That's all. Thank you.
Grazie, Professor Sapelli.
Thank you very much, Professor Sapelli. During the second part of this meeting, I would like to invite here on stage 3 young workers. They will ask some question, keeping in mind their recent experiences in the labor market. Good morning, my name is Marco, I'm 29. I studied engineering and now I work in Milan. I'm carrying out a project, a 1-year project in Singapore. I would like to ask 3 questions. The first one maybe you've already answered. It concerns the possibility of growth of a great company, of a large company. A lot of times these companies, for a company it's very hard to grow at the beginning. So is it possible to have a good career inside these large companies for a young person? And another question is about my personal experience. More and more young people migrate abroad or live abroad for some time. Sometimes this is a burden for families and for personal relationships. What do you think about this aspect? Third and last question about university. I saw that there's a great problem in university fundings. What do you think about a possible relationship within large companies and Italian universities? Good morning, my name is Andrea Montanaro. I'm an engineer, I'm 27. I work in the Department of Analysis and Investments in a company. We have very recently created a startup in digital labs. We're trying to find a working system for our startup. We would like to enter the market next year. I have a few questions. First, which are the drivers for the success of a company that is entering the market right now, the modern market? Second question, do you think open innovation is important, and how important is it? Can we count on it for the future of our companies? Third question, it is about large companies like yours. Do you support the entrepreneurship in drive of your own workers? Do you think this can be a resource for your own company, and how do you support them? Good morning, my name is Maria Chiara. I'm an engineer. I'm 28. I'm married and I have a baby. 7 months ago I had a baby. I will go back to work in a few weeks. I'm very hopeful for my job and my future. And I know that I can use my experience as a mother in the workplace. At the same time, I'm afraid of the company's idea about me because of the fact I am a mother. I would like to ask you, do you think being a mother and having a family is a resource, or is it a problem for companies? Now, please answer these questions. Professor Angelini. Now, I will try to answer the question about startups. And I will also try and answer Maria Chiara's questions. Now, I think that has already been said during the meeting. I believe that those people that are ready to experiment and take risks have to keep in mind that failure is not the end of the world. Thanks to failure, large companies became what they are now. If you fail, this is only a step of a longer journey. As for the willing to create these startups, we, as a company, we have supported 4 initiatives of our own employees, of startups. There is a partnership between Lewis University and other ventures. And some of these ventures have become our providers. So these innovations are very important. And it is also very important to find a large company immediately that can help you as a provider and as a partner. Second question, open innovation. I said it at the beginning of my speech. I think it is a must for companies right now. Research and development cannot only be based on the traditional system, and it cannot be based only in the system that is inside a company. The winner is the one that will be able to have a dialogue with startups, to find collaborations. And I believe that companies will be too slow. They will miss the boat of innovation. Third answer, support to independent initiatives. Our young people inside the company still have to grow up to develop skills. And we encourage them to take risks. Sometimes we even bought the patent of some of their initiatives. For example, working in the call center field, our young employees had the dream of developing new methods, new products. Now, instead, we still are not able to support employees that want to become separate entrepreneurs. Those who work inside a company knows how the companies work. Know their clients. As for Maria Chiara, I'm an optimist, just like you. I believe a new baby, a new life is always a gift. And it will be a resource in your working place. I hope your colleagues will not take advantage of your situation. But I'm convinced of the fact that small and large companies have to understand that workers need to combine professional and personal life. Companies need to understand that people that are parents, are mothers and fathers, want to be successful. And especially the field of communication can do a lot for this. This is the fourth year for us as Wintre that we produce a video about our activities and about our workers. Maybe we will show it to you later. We hope you like it. Thank you.
Fight with everyone else. Your masquerade. I don't wanna be a part of your parade. Everyone deserves a chance to walk with everyone else while holding down a job to keep my girl around. Some new strings and her a night out on the weekend. Your masquerade. I don't wanna be a part of your parade. Everyone deserves a chance to walk with everyone else.
Credo che se abbiamo la capacità di...
So I believe that if we're able to communicate with a small truck, we will be able to communicate with large companies as well.
Sì, allora tre domande molto interessanti perché
Well, I believe these questions are very interesting because they help us understand the challenges that this generation is faced with, the experience of quest in the world, the capacity of creating a professional opportunity on your own by investing in your own opportunities, and finally the real crisis of nowadays, combining the problem of combining personal and professional life. As for the first question, I would like to say that obviously being able to work abroad is really important, and it can really improve your curriculum. So to answer Marco's question, I would say that it is very important to go and work abroad, have an experience abroad, and so I recommend this for your both for your work in that company and for your own future. Maybe you would like to go and work for other companies, so I encourage you to go and work abroad as well. Because experiences abroad will allow you to benefit from everything that lies ahead of you on the labor market, thanks to a stronger curriculum. Second, as for the second question, small and large companies are investing more and more in open training in a structural way. That is to say, by creating radar systems in order to detect startups right from the beginning, even before they enter the market, startups that can be useful to the company itself. We are working with a consortium in order to do so, in order to collaborate with startups from all over the world. And I must say that we are achieving great results. Because when a large company invests in a startup by funding it, there is an exchange of experiences and opinions, because the large company is able to support the startup, help the startup develop their idea, and the startup can, of course, help us in providing a service. And as for the third question, combining maternity, personal and professional life, I am an optimist. Of course, I see many situations in which many women have bad experiences, they are paid less, and they are discriminated against because they've become mothers. But companies must regain a sort of social responsibility, because as a mother you acquire more skills, more soft skills, which will turn out to be very useful once you go back to work from a management point of view. And so I believe that large Italian companies need to make further progress in this regard. Thank you. Thank you. I would like to start from the third question. It is a very controversial topic. We always discuss a lot this topic, how to relate to the women that take a maternity leave and then come back. We need to make sure that we are able to manage this process. As a company, we want to cherish performance and talent and skills in order to make progress and develop. And so when our women employees are willing to come back, we must be ready to welcome them. Sometimes they do not want to come back because they are afraid they cannot combine personal and professional life, and that is why we're trying to develop systems of remote working so that they can work from their own place. We are implementing flexi time, and so they can manage their own working hours according to their own needs. So we are implementing some very tangible measures, and I believe we can do even more in this regard. But we're already doing a lot in order to support them, in order to address this topic. As for the startups, I must say that international experiences are very important for large companies. The world is more and more interconnected, and we as a company, we keep looking for people who have some sort of international and intercultural experience abroad. And Italy has not made much progress in this regard, and so young people need to go abroad, have experiences abroad, in order to gain a competitive advantage in this country when you come back. Then, as for the possibility to combine a startup with the collaboration with a large company, I don't think this is very doable. Of course, we're willing to support the development of startups, but it is not possible to coordinate a collaboration with them. I believe that it will be possible in the future. Maybe large companies will not even exist anymore, but as for today, I don't believe that is possible right now. However, from a digital point of view, each and every application that we create was created by young entrepreneurs who work in the digital sector. We would not be able to do this. We do not have the skills to do this, but as companies, we do support these kind of skills and these kind of experiences in order to have a long-term approach. Thank you. But first of all, as for the third question, the issue of maternity leaves and so on, well, I'd say it really depends on the company, because companies are responsible towards their own employees. Mothers who come back to work must be conceived as a progress in itself, not a step backwards. And so we need to develop a corporate culture in this regard. And then, of course, we would need to discuss corporate welfare. In the past, maternity leaves, benefits, and so on, and corporate crash, everything was for free. It was provided for free to employees, and this is not the case anymore. I remember I tried and tackled this issue. We had employees in our company who had quit their job after having kids, and then after a while, after a couple of years, after raising their kids, when the kids were maybe 16 years old, they wanted to come back. And so we did welcome them back. But of course, I am talking about very different times. The world has changed, things have changed since then. So this is a very important topic. As for the possibility to have a career in a large company, well, let's say that first of all, you need to talk about yourself, to present yourself. In the past, in large companies, it was very easy. Wives just followed their husband anywhere he was sent to. Things have changed right now. Well, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't get married if you wanna work in a corporation. But I believe we should follow the example of American corporations, because they set a great example. Because, for example, they encouraged the role of women together with their husbands, what they could contribute to in the company. And so we could say that large companies, in a way, also cared for the personal life of their employees. Nowadays, things have changed. But back then, in that way, a sort of corporate welfare was guaranteed, supporting families and personal life. Whereas nowadays, young people are faced with a choice whereas go for a professional career or working in a large company. So maybe we would need to have more flexibility in this regard. In Italy, there is no corporate culture at all. There is no managing culture. Nowadays, we never talk about management, really. In the past, there were a lot of good magazines about management, and so it was possible for people to inform themselves and so on. Nowadays, you're faced with a choice whether you want to get married right away or not. Well, I say wait for a while before you get married if you want to have a career in a company. That's how things are. Moreover, you shouldn't even be very visible. You should be invisible somehow, because otherwise you will encounter a lot of difficulties. You will have problems. You need to have some sort of political intelligence. You need to be smart in this sense. I recommend you I suggest you read The Prince by Machiavelli, because It is essential in order to learn how to behave in a large company in order to have a career and not to have problems. As for startups, I would like to say that you need to have a balanced budget, be realistic from a financial point of view. You need to have a business plan and pay a lot of attention. And then I wish you luck, of course.
Thanks. We've talked about putting people at the heart of companies, about new generations, about new challenges faced by companies because of this digital revolution. We have talked about crisis, the crisis of corporations. So I would like to conclude with a quote by a US President, Abraham Lincoln, who in 1862 wrote, "The dogmas of the past are not adequate to our present. Our present situation is difficult. Facing these new challenges, we have to think in a new way and act in a new way. We have to wake up and see a reality, and this is how we will save our country." I think this is exactly what we've tried to do today, and I want to thank our guests for talking with us, for answering our questions. I believe they are all trying to find new ways to act given this rapidly changing world. I would like to invite all of you to pay a visit to the exhibition in Pavilion B1. Everything we've said today is a common thread to an effort of dialogue that we're trying to start. We would like this dialogue to continue, and to conclude, I would like to remind you that you can contribute and donate to the meeting personally. You can donate to the stands called Donate Now, Dona Ora. Thus, you can help the meeting exist, and you can help new dialogues like the one we had today start and take place. Thanks for your attention, and enjoy the meeting.